Last week, I got a comment on a recent video asking me to break down how do I talk to girls and how do I not bore them, more importantly. So this video is my response because I've approached over 1,000 girls in my life and I've had the full range of results too. I've had girls that have completely blanked me and girls that I've met that I've then gone on to date for 2.5 years. So I've broken down and distilled what I think are the 5 essential elements of good communication to ensure that you can build a connection and most importantly, you're not boring. And if you stay to the end, number 5 is hitting a topic that I think is most interesting to guys of how do you shift from purely platonic kinds of conversation into something deeper and something that has more of a romantic undertone to it. So let's kick things off with number 1, and I'm going broad, so we're talking topics to start off with. Fundamentally, I believe that you can talk about almost anything if you approach it with the right intention and in the right way. But there are certain topics that time and time again I do end up coming back to that I think are the most successful when you are especially starting out and talking to girls. Firstly, I would recommend speaking about emotions. So what do you love? And what do you hate? For me, I cannot tell you the amount of times that I've been either on a date with girls or interacting with them, and I've just gone off on a bit of a rant about how much I hate the final season of Game of Thrones, because I was devastated by how much they ruined character arcs that had been set up for a decade, and I was fuming about it. And I will go off on this mini rant, and the funny thing is, sometimes they don't even need to have seen Game of Thrones to get really invested in this conversation, because when you're trying to build a connection with someone, you're doing it by building bridges, and you don't need necessarily for the topic to matter, because we all understand emotions. We all know what love means. We all know what hate means. So they connect to that. They connect to the energy. It's not dry, the conversation. It's just got this emotional potency. So I'll talk about what I love, that I love running. It's my sense of freedom. It's what gets me back to baseline when I'm having an awful day and I'm all up in my head and I go running and I just feel all the weight start to come off of me. So one of the first things I'd recommend introducing to your conversation is just finding out, what do you love, what do you hate, what are the things that really engage you, and speak about them because they're always engaging to people. Secondly, I speak about stories as well. Stories tell people so much more about you than just random descriptions. This is why if you go to a job interview, they don't really ask you just the mundane things of what you've done on paper. They ask you to tell us about a time when this happened. Tell us about a time this, because we understand each other through the mode of story. I think one of the stories that I've spoken to a few girls about recently is that I've moved to a new city. I ended up making a bunch of new friends on one night, and then on the Monday, they asked me if I wanted to go to karaoke. Realistically, I've not done karaoke for 6 years, and I've done it twice in my life. And we went to the rockiest of rock bars. It was full of heavy metal people. And that isn't really my kind of music, to be honest. But I went up and I did karaoke, and I stuck to my guns, and I did Call Me Maybe, which is one of the most embarrassing pop songs you could go for. But I went up there and I did it because that was a better representation of what I could do. And the thing is, if you're going to do such an embarrassing song, you kind of need to go all in. You can't half-arse being singing the cheesiest pop song in a dingy rock bar. Doesn't work. So I went all in, and I like to say that I am 10 out of 10 performance, 4 out of 10 ability for singing. And it crushed and everyone loved it. And when I tell girls that story, it communicates a bunch of things that I wouldn't be able to get across in just a normal dialogue. It's that I'm quite social and I like to try new things, and I'm willing to make a fool out of myself in pursuit of doing things that are authentic to me. People love stories because they are able to interpret who you are out of them, rather than just me going, oh yeah, I like new things. Cool. What does that mean? It's too bland. We need that story to engage us and allow us to connect with others. And the final topic that I would recommend as well is relationships. And I'm not talking your ex-relationships. That's not a very good idea, especially at the beginning. But another thing girls love to talk about is just people. So I like to speak about my relationship with my sister, or how I grew up being a bit of a mummy's boy and I was cooking with my mum when I was 14 rather than going out and partying. Because part of our identity is who we are in reference to others. And this allows us to communicate more of who we are. Like, who is your favourite sibling? What do you do with your best friend? Why do you like your best friend? What is it about their personality that you're super engaged with? Is it that they're super ambitious, or they bring out just the best side of you? What is it about your relationships that means that you continue to have them? So if you're looking for 3 core topics to hit that I have never seen fail, it would be speaking about emotions, your loves, your hates, talking about stories, and finally, talking about your relationships. Secondly, the second key element to communication. We've got a lot of numbers here, people. I'm doing this off the cuff. Okay, and that would be basically, I have this, don't take the conversation too seriously. They surveyed all of the successful first dates from a cohort, and they came back with just one thing that they all seemed to agree was such a key component of a successful first date. They all just said it was fun. They just said they had a fun time on it. And some guys, especially if you're the analytical type, which is certainly what I used to be. I used to work in finance for years and years. And then if you try and take that approach when you're speaking to a girl, you end up just all in your head and the conversation has no rhythm to it. It's just so bland and analytical. Where are you from? Cool. Is that place good? Nice. How many siblings do you have? Like, it's bland. It becomes predictable. We as humans have a habit that if we start to feel like we can predict the patterns of something, we lose interest in it. This is why slot machines are so popular and so addictive, because they implement something called a variable reward ratio schedule. And what that does is give you randomness to how rewarding it is. And that's what you want to have in that level of communication, where it's like, sometimes I'm going to give you a completely serious answer, and sometimes I'm just going to be funny. I've been asked by girls how old I am, and I just say like 42, and just say I have an amazing skincare routine, and it just breaks the rhythm of how they think the conversation's going to go, so they actually pay more attention to it. Finding ways to just add a little bit of fun. Say your favourite fruit is broccoli, I don't know, anything that just kind of breaks out of, I know what the answer's going to be. It's going to be, I went to university, I did normal subject ABC. No one wants that. They want to feel like you're a little bit different. Can't really work out what you're going to be. Okay. Thirdly, don't interview the person or be the invisible man. So I wrap these two up together because I think nice guys, especially me in my past history, have a habit of doing both of these things. They've met someone new and they just turn into like a podcaster where it's like, I'm going to drill you with a bunch of questions. I'm going to find out everything about you. And the reason this fails is because it doesn't have any genuine authenticity and curiosity. There's no authentic curiosity to the question. It's like, you don't really want to know. You're just afraid of needing to fill the space. So you just drill them with questions and questions and questions, and it gets to the end of the interaction and they don't really feel any connection because it wasn't a two-way interaction. You weren't really in it, which is what I call the invisible man, that you don't speak about yourself. You try and take the pressure off of you. Random boy racer cars. You take the pressure off of you by keeping the pressure on them of just like, oh, I'm just going to get you to talk. I'm going to get you to speak only about you because I'm kind of afraid to show myself. So as a nice guy, one of the things that you need to do is put yourself into the conversation. And I mentally work on this because I just have this really bad habit where I will default to just kind of keeping the attention on other people and not putting myself in the conversation. So I become kind of uninteresting, because as fun as it is to feel like someone's taking an interest in you and asking a lot of questions, if they never add anything of their own, no personality, no stories, what is there to connect to? So I think a lot of guys, and old me included, fall down on this, that, yeah, when I go speak to a girl, last night I was walking back from the gym and I started with, here's a shout out for you, the simplest of openers. I literally said, that's a really cool bag, because I liked her bag. And I didn't really expect it to go anywhere, but I just was in a mood of sharing some joy and generosity. I was just like, that's an awesome bag. And she was like, oh, cool, thanks. And her response was so engaging and open to the compliment that I just ended up talking to her more and more. I started going into what she was doing here, and we ended up walking home and having a great time together. And that was an awesome interaction off such a basic opening line. But to bring it back to the invisible man, I know that I asked her a few questions first and got her a few of her opinions, but I knew that I needed to eventually interject of, here's some of my stories. So I told her the karaoke story. Here are some of the things that I'm enjoying. I really like running, etc., etc. And that allowed me to be in the conversation and allowed her to connect to me. And we had a great interaction because of that. So if you're a nice guy, be careful on this front. Don't become just the incessant interviewer, and actually put yourself into the conversation so you don't become the invisible man. Okay, so number 4 also tiptoes onto what I think is a major concern for guys, which is, how do I not come across just Mr. Pally Pally friend when I'm talking to a girl? Number 5 hits on this harder, but number 4 is almost your intro to it. And that is, don't be afraid of pressure. One of the things that I've noticed that I've done in the past, and a lot of guys do when they're speaking to a girl, is there'll be anything the girl says, it's like, yeah, oh, nice. And it's this constant feedback of, I'm paying attention to you, I really like, yep, I'm listening, all this kind of thing. And they don't want to have any of those breaks or to not say anything. And what this does is destroy any pressure in the interaction. There's no build-up of tension at all, and we need that for there to be this kind of emotional connection to start being built. If every time there's kind of a momentarily lull, you just fill it with something else, it comes across as scared that you really just want her to have the best time, and it's not you're kind of feeling out if you vibe with this person. This also works as well just in a social scenario, that yeah, I get it. We sometimes say things to encourage people. So if someone's a bit uncertain, they're not quite getting the words together, you go, yeah, go on. And it helps them come out of their skin. But if someone's in a flow and they're speaking and they're going for it and they're going diving deep into topics they're flowing, all you're doing is interrupting at that point. All you're doing is being like, oh yeah, trying to jump in and get your words in. Don't do that, especially in interaction with a girl. The pauses and the silences open up a space for you two to connect. Weirdly, these will be the spots that create the most depth to the interaction. It's those moments where you just like hold a glance with each other, which brings us on to point 5, and the biggest way that you can take things from being a purely platonic interaction to something a little bit spicier. And that is holding eye contact and intention. So the difference between me kind of looking at the floor and just, oh yeah, I've got some friends here, versus me looking at her directly and having intention. It's like, yeah, I've got a few friends here and they're really amazing people, and I really like hanging out with them in this spot because I think it is the best place in the city and I love it. I think you'd love it as well because of this reason. And just having a little bit more of a close, intimate bond. People think they need to have this magical set of like 10 different conversational topics, which, oh yeah, this is what's going to seduce her. What I'm going to do is talk about some really raunchy thing or whatever, and that will be what seduces her. I can't talk about anything. Nah. In my experience, you can basically talk about whatever you want as long as you have this intention behind it. When you're speaking to her, I think you also slow your pace down because all of the things that would be naturally more seductive start to happen when you have more of a seductive intention. And by that, I mean when you speak to her, you see her in a frame of, hey, I actually quite like you and I think we could have something going on here, more than just let's high five in a park. Because if we start to think that and we start to feel that, it will resonate, it will come across in the way that we communicate together. So don't worry too much about topic. Feel eye contact and intention when it comes to bridging that gap between just being platonic Paul and being seducer Sam. Let's go with that. Why not? And these are my 5 key elements to what I think is excellent communication and, most importantly, not boring girls. So just those initial topics, they will keep you in a really good shape when you're speaking to girls. Smashing them out, not taking things too seriously really helps. Having fun with it, that is huge. Putting yourself in the conversation, not being the invisible guy. Then finally, pressure, holding pressure, being able to be okay with a lull in the conversation. And that's usually because you can hold on to it by the fact you will have eye contact and intention, which rounds us off. If you enjoyed this video and you would like a topic that you'd like me to discuss, and I'd happily dive into it, comment below if there's something you're interested in and would like me to go over. I hope you have a great day and catch you on the next one.